What's going on, everybody? It's Monday evening. It's the Monday after the one and the only, the legendary road course that the Cup Series has run for so long, Watkins Glen, and it was an event of some sort, which we will discuss here momentarily. But the topics that we're going to talk about in this video, as you see on the thumbnail, um, is who will be driving the Kaulig Racing number 31. Now, last year at around this time, maybe a little bit later than this, um, we were pretty confident about something and made a prediction. Now, I just want to get this out of the way now. I must stress it's a prediction, but it's not like a let's throw shit at the wall and hope it sticks prediction. I've done my homework and also through the process of elimination, names coming off the board. I do believe I have the answer to not only who is driving the number 31 Kaulig Racing. Is it Chevrolet? We'll talk about that. But the partners as well. That's right. Not one, but two. I think I know both. So I could be wrong. This might end up backfiring at us. We'll see. But we're going to talk about that after Watkins Glen. Joining me now, he missed the last one. And by the way, apologies for those of you that had to listen to me ramble for 28 minutes by myself. That was just as difficult for me as it was for you. Ryan, what's going on, man?
Hey, Sean. Man, happy to be back with you here tonight. And I just have to say, I listened to your show the other night, and I thought you did a fantastic job going on for 30 minutes straight. I don't think I would be able to convey as cleanly and crisply as you did. So kudos to you for performing that so admirably in my absence. Yeah, man, it's going good. I'm happy to be here. There's at this point in the season still a lot to talk about for our little racing team that could Kaulig here. And I know we have some predictions and you have some predictions because I don't know who you're talking about. You've kept this from me, so you've teased me as well as our audience here on who's going to be who's going to be in that 31 car. So I'm eagerly awaiting that. But yeah, I mean, let's start with how the race went this last weekend at Watkins Glen. 2 weeks ago at Indy, things didn't go so well for our guy. Had a good speed in his car, but had an on-track incident and more or less effectively eliminated himself from playoff contention, especially with Michael McDowell getting that clutch win at the Indy Road Course. So Watkins Glen was a win or go home moment for AJ, Justin, and the whole Kaulig Racing organization. And I sit here today saying, man, we came up just a little short. We did not get that win. We are still on the outside looking in on the playoffs. But I am so proud of the entire Kaulig Racing team this week because, man, they did everything they could to give AJ the best shot to win. And they came up a little short. They didn't quite have race-winning speed, but they unloaded really well. They were P1 in practice, qualified 6th, ran up front, top 5 all day long. Had good pit stops, not great pit stops. I know, we've talked about the pit stops ad nauseum over the course of our time doing this show. And they weren't perfect, but they were good. There were no penalties. There were no hiccups. There were no loose lug nuts. They got the job done. They got him in. They got him out. He lost one spot in the pits to Chris Bell on his last pit stop, which effectively cost him 3rd place in the finishing order. But you know what? Top 5, 4th place. Only AJ's 2nd top 5 of the year, a 4th, maybe 5th top 10 now. It was just a much needed good weekend. And I'm just top to bottom. They unloaded well, they qualified well, raced well. And that's something we can build on going into Daytona this weekend, which is still, hey, we still got a shot, right? We still got a shot to make the playoffs here coming into Daytona. AJ's been quite good at the road course, at the super speedways this year. P6 at Daytona, P4, I want to say, at Atlanta earlier this year. So we've got a good package at the super speedways. We got a shot. We got a win to get in. But I'm hoping this momentum carries out. And even if we don't make the playoffs, we have a good, strong rest of the season that leads into 2024, where I know we're predicting the 31 car this evening. But I think we can all safely predict that AJ will be back in the 16 car next year. And this is the building blocks we need to start from to try to get where we need to go, not only this year but next year as well. So I am super pumped, honestly. I mean, we've had a little tough long season, but I am super excited about where we're going this weekend and the rest of the way. So Sean, what do you think, man? Did you think we had a good weekend today? Because I certainly was pretty damn happy with how we ran.
So yeah, well, when we say we, I think Allmendinger, I heard his post-race remarks. He basically said he ran about as close to a perfect race as he could. He put it all out there, and obviously there's something with this new car that isn't allowing for passing really, and it makes it damn hard. Like, you have to be substantially better than someone else, or someone else has to make a pretty big mistake in order to get around them, which is obviously an issue. And you'll notice, I mean, this is a topic for another thing. The main areas that this is a problem at is the road courses where they're fast and you don't have to slow down a ton. Indy only had, what was it, one or two cautions. But I can tell you this about Indy is there was still lots of passing that happened at Indy, especially back in the pack. There was a lot of look at Allmendinger. I mean, he was literally went from, like, I think at one point a lap down and raced his way up the natural way back on the lead lap. So you could pass. I think you can pass at road courses that require, heavy braking zones. And Watkins Glen really only has the one. It's turn one, and even then, you're flying through that turn a lot quicker than you are at a lot of other road courses for their heavy braking. So I do think that has something to do with it too. But we'll have to wait and see what happens and what.
And that's a good point. The high speed tracks have always usually been the better road courses over the past few years.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, I was just saying, like, I think honestly in years past the faster road courses have been the better road courses for NASCAR, because it's kind of allowed them to race them like ovals. There's a little bit more beating and banging, but you're right. The package this year, and honestly the last couple years, has just not been very good, and a lot of that is the new car. The new car is bigger. It's got bigger tires. It's a little bit wider. Got much bigger brakes on it. So. It's reduced the braking zones so much that, and what few braking zones they have are non-existent. And that's really kind of created a situation where it's really is hard to pass. And obviously for us, as Kaulig fans, AJ running top 5 all day kind of made us feel better about the race. But I can definitely understand why some, if your guy wasn't running so well, why this race maybe wasn't the best race to watch. But that being said, I think there's still a lot of opportunities to improve the road course package. And honestly, if they do continue to improve the road course package where they make passing a little bit easier, that should only benefit AJ and Kaulig racing going forward.
I absolutely agree with that. I just, to me, when you look at the road courses that have happened this year, I thought the ones that had the most lull in them were. I honestly didn't think Indy had lull in it. It sucked what happened to our guy, but he. Sorry, I was just reading something. But he. He had to do what he had to do, and it was fun watching him come from the back. I watched in-car for most of that race. I watched in-car for most of the Glen, too. And I didn't see what I was seeing at Watkins Glen. I didn't see that at Indy. Allmendinger was constantly able to race his way back to the back bumper of the 20 there throughout the last 20 laps, but he couldn't do anything. Like, he couldn't get around. He couldn't even really make an attempt to get around him. It was like this yo-yo effect. And it's not like it just happened to AJ. The 20 was having the same thing with the 11 as well. And like AJ said after the race, he was pretty sure he was faster than the 20 and the 11. I agree. I totally think he was faster than the 20 and the 11. Frankly, I thought the two best cars yesterday were the 5 and the 16. I said that about halfway through the race. Like, hey, these guys are good. And obviously, the 16s didn't have any luck, and the 5 had bad luck. So, which leads to a William Byron win. And he's obviously become more potent at road courses. I do have to ask, though, man, I'm going to hand the reins over to you for a couple minutes here. The Xfinity problems, I know you didn't see the race, but they continue, man, to a point where Chris Rice is acknowledging them on social media, and I just don't know where they fix this at this point, because say what you want about Kyle Busch, but Kyle Busch was only getting 8th, 9th place results out of that car before the equipment failure. So I don't know, man. It's like they're bringing dump trucks to the track lately.
They definitely missed the setup. I read the post race transcripts from all three of the Xfinity cars, and you know, Daniel Hemrick mentioned that they had really good short run speed, but they were too aggressive on their setup, and the car started to fall off very quickly. And I think we saw that because he did qualify okay. I remember about right on 6th, but then he faded to 12th or 13th after a matter of 6 or so laps. And we saw Kyle Busch going the wrong way too. Qualified up front, held his track position for a little while, but then started to also fade. But then he also had that unscheduled pit stop, and I honestly don't know. I did not get a chance to watch the race, so I don't know if he had a tire puncture or what caused him to make the unscheduled pit stop that put that team behind the 8 ball for the rest of the race. And from there, it was just Kyle Busch using his talent to drive back through the field, which, hey, at least in the Xfinity Series, you could make passes and drive forward if you were behind the 8 ball a little bit, because that's what Kyle did. Raced himself back up to right around that 11th, 12th position, and him and Hemrick were basically racing to there all the rest of the race. Chandler had his own issues. He spun himself out, went to the back, went down pit road, got caught a lap down because of a caution. He fought back all day, but to his credit, fought back, got back on the lead lap, and brought it home in the top 10, which for Chandler, who has not shown much pace at the road courses all season, I thought he did really good there. I felt like he performed as probably his best road course of the year, considering the cars weren't that great. And I do agree with that. The cars definitely weren't that great. I don't know if it was just a situation where not having AJ and having him help set the car up caused problems, or where they went wrong. But the cars definitely were off a beat. And then on top of that, the performance issues, the mechanical issues, have definitely become pretty frequent, which is something I've tried to give the team a general pass on, because mechanical failures, for most all intents and purposes, are not something a team can prepare for. You're buying the parts and you're putting the parts in the car, and you need them to hold out. When you lose a transmission 3 laps from the finish, that's not something I blame Kaulig for. It was just an unfortunate situation that happened to Kyle Busch there. And then Daniel Hemrick had an issue, which I do find very interesting, because they never said what his mechanical issue was. But he did have to go behind the garage for a few laps. They got him fixed up, and he went back out and finished, I think, a lap or 2 down. But he had a mechanical issue towards the end. So we've had a couple mechanical issues. We had the cooling suit issues for a year now, multiple cooling suit issues. So, yeah, it's definitely a little perplexing to see the Xfinity side kind of hit a summer swoon, I guess, if you want to call it that, where the car performance hasn't been very good. They've had a rash of mechanical issues, whether it's of the team's doing or not, but it's definitely, takes a toll on the team. If the car is not performing, or it's not, holding together, then it puts a driver in a position where they might be a little bit more cautious because they're afraid the car is going to fail. So it's definitely cumulative. and it's definitely been an issue. And I will say, even though the Xfinity cars, all three of them, are fairly safe in the playoffs, if they don't really get their act together here real fast, they could be out fairly early. I think Chandler is good enough and the car is good enough that they can definitely get out of the first round of the playoffs and make it to the round of 8. But will he make a run at the round of 4, the championship 4? They're going to have to make some real gains real fast if they want to do that. Not out of the realm. They have clearly shown that they have speed at certain tracks, and Chandler's proven that he's an incredibly good wheel. He can drive the living hell out of these cars. There's no question on that. But he's been inconsistent with. He's a rookie. I think he's hit a bit of a rookie struggle here a little bit, but it is what it is. So I feel like the team is not where they need to be, but once the playoffs start, you flip the switch and you start over, and all you can hope for is that they've rectified these issues and they go forward. So I just feel like it's not a good place, but they've got a little bit of time to get it right.
Yeah, I think at the Xfinity level, there's been these problems for the last 2 years pretty consistently, and the performance of their cars just seems to continue to decline. The performance of the Cup car has continued to decline. So I do wonder what's next. Where do they go from here? I truthfully don't know. And I think we're all hoping there's a silver lining here and that there's a plan to dig out of this hole that they've found themselves in anyways, at both levels, really. And we'll see if they can dig their way out. Easier said than done. The primary reason for today's video, though, is who will drive the Kaulig Racing number 31 Cup Series car next year, and honestly, probably for years to come, because I don't believe it's a one-year guy. But I could be wrong. But last year we successfully predicted that AJ Allmendinger would become the full-time driver of the 16 car, and that would be revealed at Kaulig Racing Fan Day. So we've sort of, tooted our horn on that one. I'm not saying I'm as confident as I was on that one, but I'm pretty darn close. So I have a prediction on who the driver and 2 of the partners are coming on board for Kaulig Racing that hasn't been announced yet. And I'll lay down some of my evidence in a second, but we'll give Ryan his own episode on this if he chooses to have one and put together his own evidence and own case. But I'm just curious, though, man. You're at the poker table.
Yep.
And you got to put your chips in on. I'm not going to ask you to predict the partners because obviously I've put some thought into this and done some research. But not who you want, but if you have to guess it right, chance to, make some decent money by guessing it right. Who are you picking?
Listen, we've done several episodes now, and each time we've thought we were on the right path, we've been wrong. So this is a tough one. I really feel strongly that, to me, it's between 2 candidates at this point. I'm going to touch on this just ever quickly because I do find it interesting. Zane Smith as a driver, as you said in my other episode, that I thought had a real shot. I have a real affection for. I think he's an elite talent. However, he has been a Ford driver, but this week they are entering for Front Row Motorsports is entering a 3rd car, and Zane's not the driver. So I'm curious if maybe Zane is no longer a Ford driver, and there's an opportunity for Zane to join the team. So I'm leaving that possibility open because I do think it's there. But I saw your graphic for just a split second, but really my poker chips in on Carson Hocevar. I just think after what we found out about Carson Hocevar, he's come into his own the last little bit. I feel like his sponsors, he has some sponsors from Worldwide Express. And they've been a premium partner of his for a while, and he has shown some real growth. He's won 3 truck races this year. He's had his issues in the past, but I think he's shown some maturity. He's only 20 years old. He's so young. Um, I'm betting on Carson Hocevar with the Worldwide Express partnerships to step in and be the driver of the 31 car in 2024.
Well, Ryan stole my thunder a little bit there. I also clicked the wrong image. But yes, yes. I can say this. I know we were on the Austin Hill train because it seemed apparent because that was out there from Bob Pockgrass and other people as well. But I'm okay if Hocevar gets the car. One, it looks like there's funding. So when doing some research, and again, I've gone back and watched that Chris Rice media scrum in the front stretch interview, which happened on back-to-back days, probably 5 or 6 times over the weeks, just to, again, make sure I'm not putting my own spin on the narrative and understanding where he's coming from and what he's telling us in those interviews. And Kaulig Racing has new partners, new sponsors, and that they are set. And it was a matter of who. The Zane Smith thing, I think, is very possible. I do sit there and wonder, does AJ want Xfinity so bad, even though I'm not buying that you go with Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar? I wouldn't advise the inexperience, but I'll tell you what, the Smiths with Hocevar is not a bad 3-car lineup for your future. No, my prediction is Carson Hocevar in the 31. It could end up being Zane Smith. The team could move to Ford. Frankly, I think a switch to Ford in an alliance with RFK probably benefits them. They could still move to Ford with Hocevar for all we know. But we do know Hocevar is a Chevy guy. So this is what I discovered today. Carson Hocevar has been sponsored by Worldwide Express in every single truck race this season. There has not been another primary sponsor. They have been the only one on the car. I found the press release too that states when they re-upped with him in December that they would be sponsoring the entire season, which is not something they had done before. It's also important to keep in mind that Worldwide Express will have less races next year on the number 1 card. I'm assuming they will keep some, but you have help me out here, Ryan. Budweiser
Yeah, but Bud Light, Bud Light, and
I'm expecting it to be someone that's not Busch this time around.
For sure, yeah, it'll definitely. Yes, sorry, Busch Light. Wrong beer team. Busch Light, yeah, they should be on the car again.
See, I don't know if they will be. I don't know. I know that's like the same parent company that owns all that. But yeah, Worldwide Express has stepped up and sponsored his entire Truck Series effort this year. Premier Security Solutions has been a sponsor of his in the past at basically everything he's done. They also put together the sponsorship for his Xfinity effort this year. So yeah, maybe I'm stretching it here a bit, but I think that we are going to find out Carson Hocevar is the driver of the number 31 Kaulig Racing Chevrolet for probably years to come. My guess is it would be a multi-year deal with the driver and the sponsor. If that's important to get multiple years if you can. Hard to do in today's sport. I will say this though, and I just want to add this on there as a caveat. I personally think it's time to leave the RCR alliance, whatever that means, whether that means a Trackhouse alliance or a manufacturer change. I don't know, but I would rather that over any driver getting in the car. But dude, I tell you, Worldwide Express doing the entire truck season sounds like a sponsor that might step up. They have possibly some more freedom now too. Next year, I could see them being on the 31 for a dozen races.
Oh, 100%. I mean, and Worldwide Express has been on Ross Chastain's car probably close to half a dozen races, or I'm sorry, close to a dozen races this season. They have been a big partner of his, and now with AnBev, basically, which is Budweiser, Bud Light, Busch, their entire branding, coming on board to sponsor Ross Chastain, that gives the opportunity for Worldwide Express to potentially move and be on another car, because the inventory on Chastain's car is now a lot, it's more full. So it makes a lot of sense that Worldwide Express, who has sponsored a significant portion of Cup races this year, who has the budget to do it, to shift over and bring that support to Carson Hocevar if that is the choice. So that makes a lot of sense. And when we talked about it last week, that really started clicking to me. That's a strong chance. And then the other thing about Premier Security Solutions, I've seen them sponsor Ty Dillon a handful of races with Spire. So they've also been in the Cup Series to some extent. Obviously, Spire sponsorship doesn't demand the same financial requirements as maybe a Kaulig sponsorship, but if they come along, they've already at least been exposed to the Cup Series, and I feel like if they do choose to join up with Carson Hocevar, that gives them more exposure and better opportunities to be up front than on a Spire car, specifically Ty Dillon, who has not had a good season.
Yeah. So the other thing I want to add into this is, I don't know if you guys remember, but the pardon me, 1 second. So Chris Rice puts out the signing emoji at Indianapolis. Okay. One of the first people to like that signing emoji, and you and I talked about this very briefly, was Carson Hocevar. Well, and also when you like something and someone who you both follow likes it too, it usually has like the little thing above the name that says so and so liked it. So I can tell you a few days after that, he had still liked it. I can tell you now, if you go and look, he has not liked it. He has removed the like. So I don't know if they're trying to cover themselves, but like it wasn't like my finger slipped, let me go back and click it off 10 minutes later. It was there for days. And now there's no spot of it whatsoever. So could be nothing. This is where my bet is, though.
I will say, Investigator Sean is on the case, man, and you've done a great job of digging through all of the various social media, the various websites that kind of break down all of this, and I really do feel strongly that where you're coming from has a lot of merit, and I had similar thinking kind of over the last couple of days that when you look at a driver who has I think shown the talent, because he's only had one Cup start. He did that with Spire Motorsports earlier in the year, and he ended up having a brake rotor fail. But he was really impressive in that race. He was taking that car and running in the top 20. He was running 16th or 17th when he had that failure. So I feel, at least based off that one singular run, that if he makes the jump to the Cup Series, he's got the maturity and the skill set to adapt quickly. And really provide the spark that maybe that 31 car really needs, because the 31 team has really struggled the last couple weeks, and I know we have a lame duck driver and Justin Haley, but it just feels like that team is kind of slipping in the wrong direction, and it needs an infusion of excitement. So I hope if it is Hocevar, I would be really happy with that, and I really hope we hear an announcement soon, because right now, it definitely feels like the momentum is going the wrong way in that department.
Yeah, I would really like to hear something soon. But yeah, this is where I think it is. And again, I'd be stunned if it's not Hocevar. Zane Smith or Chandler Smith. At the end of the day, one of the three. I don't think Chandler's ready. I'm not saying Carson is either, but backing talks. If the backing of one of those two individuals or Zane Smith puts their butt in a cup car early, then so be it. The organization needs some financial security, and not just for a year, but multiple years. If you let us know who you think will be the driver of the 31 car down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, slash that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future content. I gotta go because I have another show to record. For Ryan, I'm Sean. Let's keep a smile on that face. Continue to go trophy hunting, and we'll see you next time at Kaulig Nation.
See you.